Hey there, welcome. Tony, it's great to see you. Everybody,
Great
we
to
got
see
Tony
you, Scott.
Scalzo with us today from Fastball, a band that I've had an opportunity to follow. I think the first time I saw Fastball was at Fiesta Oyster Bake in San Antonio. I'm not going to say the date because it goes way back there. And they're still together to this day. It's been a long time, and they've got a new album out coming out in June called Sonic Ranch. Tony, tell us about the album.
Great to see you too, Scott. Um, New album coming out in June. We recorded it mainly at Sonic Ranch in West Texas, which is a great studio with a number of different studios within it. There's probably got 4 different rooms now, and it's a situation where you have to be out there. You have to be out there the whole time. And you can't really, there's no place to go, so you stay there, you sleep there.
So you're kind of secluded.
They make it very comfortable. Yeah, you're easily 60 miles from El Paso, so that's the closest city. And David Garza is an old friend of ours who's a great artist from Texas and now living in Southern California. But he's done a bunch of great stuff. Even lately, he did a bunch of fantastic work with Fiona Apple. And so we are out there making recordings of songs that we thought maybe we would just be loading into the Patreon and keeping new music going, not really conscious of making an album. So the first session was way back in May of 2022. And so we came back with about, 8 or 9 pretty decent recordings. And then we even started putting those onto our Patreon after they were mixed. But then we decided to go in and do some more. And during the time between we had booked the studio time, which is going to be February 2023, we ended up getting this deal with a record company called Sunset Boulevard Records. And they basically wanted us to do a studio album and a live album. And we ended up in March filming a couple of days that we had reserved at South by Southwest for the Saxon Pub. So we had these afternoon shows that were free, and we brought people in, and we did 3 of them, and we videotaped them, and we recorded them. And managed to, by October, put a live record out called Smashed Hits Live. And it's sort of a best of because it's a quick live set that's like 40 minutes long. And so it's got, Fire Escape, The Way, Out of My Head, You're an Ocean. All 4 of the main, bulk of successful Fastball songs. Along with the new material and some old tunes too. And that came out really well. It was not too difficult to, orchestrate and make happen. And then, I think the label thought maybe we would have to go into the studio, but they didn't, and they didn't realize that we had already been in 2 sessions with David, and we ended up with just about enough songs to really fill an album. So we started working on that, but then the A&R guy at the record company at Sunset Boulevard, his name is Tim Devine, he had an idea to get us up to Minneapolis and do some work with John Fields. It was a shot in the dark, really, because we thought we were mainly going to go, because we had a gig this weekend, this one particular weekend in Minneapolis. And I think we thought maybe we would just tour his studio and meet him, have dinner, talk, set some kind of rough plan. But we ended up starting to work right away on a song. And I had a song, but some of the parts were kind of like, that's okay, but I have this part. And Miles had a part that, we started just blending the song together, these 2 songs together, and turning it into what it has become, and that's basically the first single, and it's called "Rather Be Me Than You." It's the only song on the album called Sonic Ranch that wasn't recorded in Sonic Ranch. So it was recorded at Creation with John Fields. And then also John had taken some of the tracks that we did with David and did some more work on them. Like he added some keyboards for strings on a song or two, and also some accordion on a song called America, which a lot of the fans know by now because it's on the live album and we've been playing it live for well over a year. But that's going to be on a studio version of that's going to be on the album. So that's basically it. The rest of the album, the bulk of the record, Sonic Ranch, is stuff we did with David over those 2 week-long sessions. And I think there's a common thread running through all of those tunes. The first song on the album is going to be that Rather Be Me Than You song, which is super power pop and really like the Knack or some shit like that, right? And then it goes into this really weird, like, esoteric space that I think really I identify Sonic Ranch with. And because it's empty out there, it's like big sky and nothing but open space. And so this song called Daydream, one of Miles' songs, comes on. It's got a lot of great electric slide guitar and a lot of just really great imagery. And then the album sort of continues with moods and different palettes being used. And it goes from being this straight up, pop rock, record to, wait, there's more going on musically here. And I think it illustrates a lot of musical growth between the three of us. And you asked me earlier to pick a couple of tunes. That Daydream song as a track 2 is really great. I know I'm describing a record that nobody's heard yet, but I think a track 2 that's really strong and different from track 1 is going to set the tone of what's about to happen, in the next half an hour or so. And that's Daydream. I like that. One of my songs on the record, I've got about just a few exclusive Scalzo, compositions on this one. A couple of collaborations with Miles, but a couple of songs that I had intended to bring more songs to the record, and I had we recorded a bunch of stuff, and I thought it was going to go on, but when you work with a bunch of people and you realize, or they make you realize that maybe this song doesn't belong on the record, whatever, I'm willing to work for this thing, and I think we made the best choices as for song selection on it this time around. And so I've got a couple, and I love both of the songs. I think they're some of the best or the most different music that I've written in my career. The first one I like is called "Get You Off My Mind," which is also on the live record. And to me, that sort of harkens back to an early 80s vibe, but an underground early 80s, more like The Cure was in the early 80s. And I really dug the idea of getting that, like, sort of, I don't know, like Echo and the Bunnymen and The Cure. And so it's guitar oriented, but it's a different kind of guitar oriented. And that's one of my favorites. It's short, it's sweet, but it also has this sort of evocative quality to it. And it reminds me yet again of that Southwest vibe. I even mentioned Arizona. Arizona sure gets cold at night, right? And the other song is a different kind of a different animal. It's more like uh, heavy guitars, kind of a quick tempo, and a lot of words, um, with weird stream of consciousness kind of um, mini stories going on, and it goes in and out of consciousness even. So like some of the lyrics are way inside the subconscious, and then something jars me into real world consciousness, and then those lyrics represent that. And if I won't go too crazy and far into it, but I was just playing with the ideas of writing and being in different zones, but still being the same person. Um, and so that's called "Let Love Back in Your Heart." Um, I think the words are diverse and vague enough for people to get their own meaning from it. So that's one of my favorites, and I think that's a fun thing to work on when you're in a pop rock band. When I say pop, people have a different idea of pop now, but I mean, I'm talking about like the Beatles, okay, like and the Kinks and bands that were rock bands, that played guitars and wrote their own songs and managed to have melodic hooks, but also lots of energy attached to that. So I'm not talking about 10 writers writing for this diva, you know, or a boy band. It's that's not the pop I'm referring to. But anyway, I like the idea of a band like Fastball being known for such things, and radio, 90s radio thing, to be able to not just explore musical ideas, but explore storytelling ideas and actual, turning it into real art and bringing a piece of art to people to enjoy and get more out of it than just, uh, you know, a whirl on the floor. A whirl.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you guys have had a history of, yeah, you've had your pop hits, right? But then you've got these gems on the albums that take you in other directions that I'm not sure casual fans even understand, right? And then they have to experience it to get it, and then that appreciation of love for the band just grows
Yeah,
even
I
more.
mean, I have very few of my friends. I have lots of friends. I'm a social person, but I don't think 5% of that friends group even knows what my band actually does. I mean, they assume, they get it because the only exposure they've had to what I do for the last 30 years is really all about. Um, and the band's been going for 30 years, so that's a big part of what Fastball's doing right now is celebrating, basically 3 strong decades together as not strong, not okay. Maybe one of those decades wasn't so strong, but for the last decade, we've been really, really busy and really, really creative, and learning a lot about each other and making things, work more efficiently and bring us more happiness. You know, that's the trick, isn't it? Find a way to make what it is something that'll make you happy on a long and build on that. Make it more and more positive as time goes by. And I don't think we had achieved that kind of vibe until the last 7 years or so. When we first started talking, Scott, around 2017, there was that was starting to rev up. That was starting to get going, and I think you've seen a lot of peaks and valleys within that time, and yet here we are. We just keep making this stuff, and we keep going on the road.
Well, that leads me to another question, because you guys have been together as you said, about 30 years. I think this is your ninth album. I love the fact that you've got David Garza working with you. I've been a fan of his since Disco Ball World, right? Since his
Right,
earliest stuff.
right. We were out on the road with him during that time.
Yeah.
His band was on that tour with us.
Oh, cool, cool. How in this album have have you taken any different approaches to the way that you and the guys are creating together? You've got your songs, Miles has his songs, then you've got, you were talking about Rather Be Me Than You as a combination. Have things evolved into more of a collaborative nature, or do you still come just with your music and trying to get your songs in the album? Or how has that all process evolved?
It's
And what
all
is
the
it that you brought that?
things, all the things that you just mentioned. Okay, so, as I said before, this album didn't know it was going to become an album. It was all about songs, batches of songs. Some of us, not me or Miles or Joey, but like David and a few other people thought we were really working on an album, and that's how they felt about it. And they expressed that. And little by little, it started turning into an album and becoming, this is a concise piece of work now. But we always go song by song, and with David in the room with us, once you bring in a song, and maybe it's your song, maybe it's I'm going to bring in a song that I wrote, and I have all these set ideas for it. That may make things a little difficult when you get into the room with a couple of other guys and David, who's got ideas about it, because you've sent him a demo, and but if I can, take myself out of it a little bit more and open up to the fact that this is going to be a band performance recording, you get new things. And so you get more interesting things, and you get things you didn't know about that were going to happen. You get new sounds. David was really great with all that. And then that exclusive composition sort of loses its meaning, that idea that it's your song. It becomes everybody working on this thing. And that's even if somebody doesn't play very much on it. There's a couple of songs of Miles's that I believe I play maybe just a little bit of piano or maybe a guitar, and that's it, or just bass. And the same with Miles. I don't think Miles plays very much on my song "Let Love Back in Your Heart." There's a bed of guitars there where there's like 3 guitars playing at the same time, and he's part of that. But so it's all different things, but I think it's more about the approach. A part of your question is that it's more about letting things happen and being there. Your presence is required. Letting things happen doesn't mean walking away and going down, the road for a couple of hours and coming back and what I miss. It's being engaged and really paying attention to what's going on. And that way you're able to join the collaboration a bit more effectively. And even if you choose to stay out and you're still in the room.
I think that says a lot for the longevity of the work of the band, and the fact that there are bands that evolve and there are bands that de-evolve. And it sounds like Fastball has been this evolution of evolving into a much more cohesive.
Well, I think Miles and I are relatively of the same caliber. I don't know. There's no rating system on creativity,
Right.
But I think we have the same sort of level of quality in the way we write, and we've grown on a parallel line that is fairly even. We're good for some good songs. All we have to do is sit down for a little while, and it happens. There's no problem there. Another part of the recipe, and there's a whole chemistry. Well, a big part of the reason that this band's still together is that we sort of we were below the line of this success that kind of like takes you into a new stratosphere, a new, level, that where things happen, where there's more at stake, where it's like life and death. And a lot of times the alpha in those groups is going to emerge as the group, and everybody's going to be gone. And we've seen examples, in varying degrees of this happening. That's showbiz. That's showbiz, right?
Right.
And that's what that term means. So we weren't really successful enough to be too worried about those giant impacts, And we also are both sort of high level egos. Okay, so we managed to get through quarrels and conflict, and there really hasn't been major conflict, but there's been a lot of little conflict, a lot of passive aggressiveness, a lot of resentments, and things like that that are only based on immature child behavior and ego and that kind of stuff. When you get a little older, you start realizing, well, this is only going to hold us back. This is only going to, and it's only going to hold me back personally. When I start thinking about that stuff, it's going to make things more difficult for me personally to continue worrying about whether I've got, 8 songs on this record or whatever, That's just one example. But, we're both, I think, rather now we're not getting in each other's ways. And I think what we're doing is a little deference too on both sides has occurred, like recognizing each other's talents and, really consulting each other. Like, what do you think we should do? And, that's helped keep things going too. It's not easy.
It sounds like
we're not solo artists. I mean, we are to a degree, but this is our thing. This is the Fastball is our job.
well, it's your partnership, and it sounds like, unlike many other acts that have come and gone, and people, there's that one ego. You guys have figured out how to work it out and make it successful, which is the sign of greatness. No matter what level you think you've reached or haven't reached, being able to do that together, I think, is something that you have to hang your hat on, because
Yeah.
you can't achieve it.
No, I don't think it's a common trait among rock and roll musicians. Yeah. And you're either some kind of dominator, or you're just you're a player, not just, but you're just playing for somebody else.
Absolutely. Hey, I have seen you guys perform many times, a lot of spectacular performances. I know you're gearing up to go out on a tour, but if my notes are correct, you're going to perform and start this tour with a show that'll eclipse all others. Tell us about this performance coming up.
Something tells me there's going to be a lot of eclipse festivals all the way. That big swath, all the way up. It's going through Buffalo and Montreal before it, sort of the arc changes. It's this show we're doing is some 90s extravaganza out in the Hill Country, which is, for all you Texans, it as the Hill Country, but it's just about 100 miles west of Austin is Fredericksburg and Kerrville and all these sort of resort towns now. They've become an attractive vacation destination, a lot of wineries and things like that. So they're going to be right in the field of the totality, and that's going to be a good name for an album for somebody. Field of Totality, but
Copyright Tony Scalzo, 2024.
yeah,
You now you've gone on the road before with a bunch of musicians as part of the band, and then recently you've tightened it up, just the three of you. Um,
yeah,
for this upcoming tour, are you taking anybody else out on the road with you to help
we
make
we
Fastball music?
we are this time. Um, we've been working a little bit with Dave Scholes, who is on the record, the live record. He's an old cat we've known since the early '90s, and we met him actually in the late '90s on the road with the Goo Goo Dolls. He was playing with the Goo Goo Dolls back then. And he plays with bands like Berlin and Wang Chung and a lot of '80s stuff. And he lives in California. And he was gonna be the guy, but he had a few other gigs that we couldn't get out of. So we got a guy who's local. You may know who he is. His name's Dave Scher, and Dave Scher plays guitar with Eric Johnson, but he also plays keyboards and he sings. So that was like a big thing. It was like, that was my deal for a while. I'm gonna sing these songs. I'm gonna play the keyboards on the keyboard songs, and I'm gonna play guitar on the other songs that I do than sing. But that got kind of crazy and hectic, and it's difficult to do a production like that when you are a stripped down band like us. So we don't have the resources to bring a monitor guy, a sound guy, a tour manager, a drum tech. We have one guy, and he's running around and he does a great job, Marcus Morales, but he has to do all these other things that are crucial. So we can't worry about whether a sound guy is going to get everything hooked up right or in tune, or not in tune, but like, into the system. Um, and it gets complicated when I'm a double station musician, when I have to move from one guitar microphone in the front and then go over here to the side where I'm no longer the center of attention, even though I'm singing the lead vocal on the biggest hit we have. Um, you know, so that's why we decided to try and go back to the three piece. We did it. We loved it actually, and we will do it again. We managed to get some tracks together for some of the more elaborate arrangements. We like to hear that organ and piano in Out of My Head, and we like to hear some of the noises and stuff that's in the way. But and we use tracks for that when we do a three piece. But most of it is just the three of us stripping it down to like a Police kind of thing, and we loved that very much. And as I said, we'll continue to do that in the future. But we also wanted, since we're going to be headlining, so we're going to playing 75 to 90 minutes every night. And when you have all these songs and you have all these parts on these songs, you kind of want to get them in there. And you don't want to make tracks for every single freaking song in your catalog. You want to have somebody be able to competently play those parts. So we've been practicing with Dave Scher, who's more than competent on all this stuff. It's just, in fact, we're having to say things like, "Hey, can you do that a little less good?" It's like, because it's like he's really
you, right?
like top notch and like Steely Dan quality. I'm saying, and we're more like the Knack quality, and so. I believe that it's going to be really interesting for these longer sets. It's going to help things a lot. I proposed an idea for some of the songs that are difficult for the band to kind of pull together on, to maybe do a couple of songs where Miles comes out acoustic and sings a couple songs, and then I come out and sing a couple songs, and then we mix that all together with the full band things, and just turning into a more entertaining and musically rich show people can enjoy based on music.
Fastball music. Let me ask you this: for those people who are planning to see you on this, I've already seen about 20 dates. How about the variety of the set list? Have you guys figured out how you're going to balance the old and the new?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, we are, we start out with a couple of familiar tunes, um, and then we go right away into some new stuff, and it's like a cluster. And then we get into some deeper, oldish fastball stuff. Um, and we have a segment where there's, a lot of stretching out of a couple tunes and kind of get the audience to participate and sing along to, whatever. Sometimes we throw in some covers but we have so many songs that we kind of want to make it more about our music, you know, and it's a mix. So yeah, there's mixtures of our very first album all the way through this current record.
Awesome. Well, now look, you're going to stretch your legs a little bit. We all know that, Miles can pull off one heck of a blazing guitar solo. You've got your great moments, but I think what fans really are looking for is this going to be the tour that Joey is going to get a killer drum solos? Like, can we expect him maybe to channel some Keith Moon, Terry Bozzio, Neil Peart, right? Will he be coming to
Those are
this in a big way?
drummers I do not think about when I think of Joey.
Do you have a big drum section in the show just so Joey can really stretch his legs on this tour?
I think Joey's fully capable of hardcore prog, but it's just not in his. It's not what he does.
So
He's
so
fully
maybe
capable.
so maybe the big solo will just be a rim shot to a Miles joke.
He's very good at that. He's very good at that.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, before we wrap things up, you guys have a Patreon. It's been growing. I know you've been able to give diehard fans some really inside views of the band and some great content. How's that going for you all? And what are your plans for that?
In my opinion, it's going very well. I think I'm getting feedback from the subscribers that they understand what's happening. We're on a label and we're trying to get these records out. There was a little bit of, I don't know, I wouldn't call it real conflict, but I got a feeling that they weren't too keen on having us put out tracks that are going to be on the record, or were part of this session on our Patreon. So we basically, rather than cause any waves with them, we just started digging, and man, I found all this stuff from over the past 30 years that shows some of it is Miles stuff. Back in the day, he would send me a CD of, here's some songs I have. Well, maybe we should try and record these. And I have those, and he's probably forgotten about them. He doesn't even know where his copies are. And I have, just scores of recorded songs. Some are demos, some are actual tracks that we recorded multi-track, and some are live performances. So we've managed to keep everybody, on a regular diet of unreleased fastball alia, right?
Well, I think, as anyone who would be a diehard fastball band, becoming a member of the Patreon and really getting to where you guys can open the kimono and really show people the history of the band and
Open the kimono.
those
Wow.
people who haven't seen.
Check out my under kimono.
I've
been watching Shogun. It's very funny. So, yeah, and the fact is, if you do, it doesn't matter when. And the fact is, if you subscribe today, you're fully, you get all the stuff that we've put out on that thing for the last 2 years. So
I think that's great.
You can join up with the other couple of hundred fans that are supporting us. It's $5 to $7 a month. For some people, that's a lot. For some people, that's a drop in the bucket. I understand. But landscapers. So yeah, it's it's a good deal for those people who really want to find out what it is that eventually becomes the music we put on albums. So I always have felt that our job is to make records. Now, whether they be albums or just recorded songs, that is that's a question for the age. I mean, Miles and I think we differ a little bit. He thinks that the album is dead, but for me, the album is. I'm not. I like silent movies. You know, what do you mean the album's dead? I'd like to make a silent movie. I think that albums are such a challenge to make into a really great piece. They're so rare. If you really look at the album and you look at the history of great albums, there's not that many that are just this, this diamond, this multifaceted diamond where every piece, like Pet Sounds, or something like that. There's not that many.
Yeah.
And
I think
I wouldn't say that we've even done that, but I feel like on this album we've come as close as we ever have.
Yeah, no, I mean you've really hit on it, and going back to where we kind of started this conversation, you've been able to find that balance, and it works, and Rather Be Me Than You is a perfect example of that. Not that musical camaraderie and the ability to help create together. So, this has been a great conversation. Have we missed anything? We've covered a lot. We've got new songs. We've got a new tour, a new album. We've got your Patreon. There's so much that Fastball is doing this year.
I would suggest that everybody go on YouTube and look at our new video by Barbara FG, shot here in Austin and in Lockhart, and it's the song "Rather Be Me Than You," and it's just a really fun 3-minute song and a funny video. Some of my friends and some of my family are in it, and we're super excited. We put it up yesterday, and it's already got quite a few views, and we want to keep that going. So if you can, check it out on YouTube, our Fastball page. Subscribe, like Fastball the Band, YouTube, and share it.
I've seen it. It looks great. It looks great. Right. I love the old TV texture to it. That's it's a really good look. And I
cool.
enjoyed seeing
some people like
even the aspect ratio. So hey, it's been great catching up with you, Tony. Hopefully we'll get chance to catch up while you're on the road. But thanks for joining us at Almost Famous Magazine to sit down and really give us some great insight on what's up with Fastball.
Hey, thanks, Scott. We'll talk to you soon. We'll be in Texas, playing some shows in Texas.
Awesome. We love you in Texas. We'll catch you soon, Tony.
Take care.